There are 10 survivors in Roblox Forsaken that each have their own abilities that let them help their team and survive against the killers. These abilities are exactly what makes each survivor special in their own way, and split them into different categories as survivalists, supports, and stunners. Because all the killers are different, that naturally means some are better matchups for certain killers, or some might even be a worse match for the killer. What I mean by a good or bad matchup is how good a survivor is based on how well the survivor is able to counter a killer or how vulnerable their playstyle is against a killer. Today we will find out what each survivor's absolute best and worst matchup is. Let's start off from the first survivor, which is Noob. Despite being a relatively simple survivor with abilities that let him stall the time or extend chases, the best and worst matchup for Noob is kinda hard to determine, but I'd say Noob's best matchup is John Doe. John Doe can struggle really hard against survivors that have distance on him, and Noob excels at getting away with his colas and Ghost Burger. John Doe is really good at catching survivors by blocking pathways of traps. So if the map is enclosed and there's a trap where Noob is going to run, he can instead drink a Slight Skin potion to block the effects of the corruption and slowness because of the speed boost he gets when the Slight Skin wears off. Noob's worst matchup is 1x1x1x1. The reasoning behind this choice is pretty simple. Since Noob is good at staying away from the killer, he is perfectly set up for 1x's biggest strength, which is of course range and damaging and killing survivors from a far distance. Elliot is a very good support character. He can heal his team and get a speed boost when he does so. This speed boost is his main way of gaining distance and extending loops, which is why I chose Jason as Elliot's best matchup. Jason is a close range only killer, so he can get looped hard by an Elliot. Once Elliot pops a speed boost to gain lots of distance in certain spots, and can be insanely hard for Jason to catch up. There's also the chance that stunners will get damaged trying to protect Elliot, so he'll be able to heal them and get a speed boost again. Elliot's worst matchup on the other hand is Cool Kid. Cool Kid is one of the best all-around killers. He's got range, minions, and powerful close-up attacks too. Since Elliot can sometimes rely on looping too much, Cool Kid's walk speed override ability can stop Elliot from taking any linear looping paths. If Cool Kid is able to get up close to Elliot, it is most likely an easy kill because Cool Kid's punches do high damage. Also, pizza bots can block Elliot's way and make looping harder. Shedletsky is a good mix between a survivalist and a stunner because he has chicken that lets him heal for 40 HP and a sword that he can use to protect himself from the killer. I'm gonna say that Shedletsky's best matchup is also Jason. Since Jason is the only killer in the game with no ranged abilities, it's the easiest for Shedletsky to hit him with the sword. Sometimes the sword can be risky though because Jason can punish heavily with Gashing Wound if Shedletsky misses. John Doe is Shedletsky's worst matchup for one specific reason: his passive. Looking back on this, John Doe got nerfed, so don't take this part into consideration, but I still stand by the fact that John Doe is Shedletsky's worst matchup. Two times best matchup has to either be Cool Kid or John Doe. I say this because both of them have moves that make them stay still for at least a second or more, which allows Two Time to be sneaky and backstab them with his dagger. This lets him fill up his oblation meter faster and get his second life ready. On the other hand, Two Time's worst matchup is Jason. Jason is a fast-paced killer that moves quickly and unpredictably. This makes it more difficult for Two Time to land stabs and fill his oblation meter. To make it worse, Jason has few abilities such as Gashing Wind and Raging Pace that make him invincible to any attacks. So this only makes it harder for Two Time to hit Jason with his dagger. Guest 1337 is one of the more complicated survivors to use in Forsaken with a high skill ceiling, but can be extremely good in the hands of an experienced player. I will stand by the fact that Guest's best matchup is John Doe. This may seem like an interesting choice because of John Doe's stun cancellation passive that got nerfed. John Doe's M1 has the slowest time for the first hitbox to come out at approximately 33 milliseconds, so if you have a reaction time of about an average human being, then you should almost always be able to land your parries as Guest. Guest's worst matchup is Cool Kid, because applying the same logic, Cool Kid is the biggest threat because Cool Kid's M1s are so fast I consider them completely unreactable. So Guest would have the hardest time predicting when to use his block. Cool Kid also can punish him for lots of damage if the block is missed. 007N7 is a survivalist with lots of tricks and means to escape chases. He's a very hard survivor to detect because of his clone tricks and cool GUI teleportation. And his best matchup is his own son, Cool Kid. Cool Kid has a really hard time finding and catching 7 and 7 because he doesn't have any tracking abilities with the exception of pizza delivery minions, which are very slow and inconsistent as a use for finding survivors. Comparing Cool Kid's tracking to a character with highlight tracking is like an ancient compass to Google Maps. Even though Cool Kid has an extended last man standing against 007 and 7, it doesn't matter too much because last man standing it just so happens to be 007 and 7's biggest strength. 007 and 7's worst matchup is 1x. 1x has a short cooldown on his side ability, meaning he can find 007 and 7 much easier than the other killers. Also, Mass Infection and Entanglement can scare 7 and 7 out of their hiding spot and make him go into the open. Builderman is a pretty underrated support character who can build machines to help his team. Builderman's best matchup is Jason. Knowing that Jason has no range, it means Builderman's sentries are the most effective against him because he has to go straight to it and waste time breaking it with slashes. This can allow other survivors and Builderman himself to get away and extend their loops. Builderman's worst matchup is also 1x1. This is pretty easy to see because 1x has their Mass Infection, which does high damage to break any sentries without having to take the slowness. Entanglement is also a good ability to use against survivors who are camping near a healing dispenser made by Builderman. Another slept on support character that can apply speed boost and shields to his team from a far distance, Dussakar's best matchup is Jason by a long shot. Jason can effectively stop a Dussar from shielding a survivor because of his lack of range. Also, you can shield a survivor before they're in Gashing Wound, making the high damage it does seem like a lot less. Dussakar's worst matchup is John Doe. John Doe has enough range to scare Dussar to not use his shield as often, but the main thing is the looping. Dussar has nothing to help himself in a chase besides looping because he's only meant to sustain his team. And as said before, John Doe can block Dussar's looping with his spikes and traps.
I don't have a lot of Taff footage, so just enjoy this looping and juking, I guess.
Taff is a sneaky support character that can place traps that slow down the killer and disorient them. His best matchup is Cool Kid. In general, I wouldn't say Taff is that good of a survivor, so this best matchup was hard to decide. But I say Cool Kid because his tripwires and mines can block a walk speed override from hitting a survivor standing beyond it. Taff's worst matchup is gonna have to be 1x again. Taff really struggles against 1x because all it takes is one lazy Mass Infection to disarm all the traps Taff has been setting up. It's so easy for 1x to counter traps that sometimes they just break all of Taff's traps without even knowing. Our final survivor to cover in this video is Chance, a long-ranged luck-based stunner. Naturally, Chance's best matchup is Jason because of the fact that Chance can stay a safe distance away from Jason's close-range attacks when stunning. But I'd also say that Chance's best matchup could also be John Doe or 1x. Yeah, Chance is pretty powerful. I say John Doe and 1x1 because they have abilities that make them stand still like Corrupt Energy or Mass Infection. Canceling these abilities with Chance's Flintlock prevents any survivors, including himself, to take damage from them. And I guess that leaves Cool Kid as Chance's worst matchup. Cool Kid can dodge shots from Chance with his fast speed and sharp movements, but I think the real reason Cool Kid is Chance's worst matchup is because of Cool Kid's punishing game is insane. If Chance misses a shot from far away, Cool Kid can still dish out damage to Chance by using Corrupt Nature or Walk Speed Override. And Cool Kid's damage to Chance is devastating if Chance has failed any recent coin flips. And there we have it. I hope this video helps you understand Forsaken matchups better. Be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and maybe comment if you have anything to add to something I've said in the video.